Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Legendary Leaders. I am your host, Katrina Jameson. I am the founder of Legend Leaders, where we arm female business leaders with the strategies they need to live life on their terms, a legendary life. We've been moving through this entire month talking about how we have currently performed this year in order to create our roadmap to deliver successfully next year. Now, if you've been with me this entire month thus far, you've pulled all of your KPI metrics, you've pulled all of your financial numbers, any type of metric or target that you've been trying to deliver to, you've pulled both actuals and you've pulled the target, the goal, right? The endpoint, whatever you want to call it. I call it a target. You've pulled all those details. Last week we walked through how to assess, right? Did I hit the mark? Did I miss the mark? Am I going to keep that lever? Am I going to get rid of it? Now, I received a couple of questions, and that's why I want to jump in today and do something a little different. I received a couple of questions about levers. That's what I call them. I call anything that you use a change, adjust, right? Maybe make more sales calls, make less sales calls. Anything that you can control in your business to drive a final output, right? To drive delivery to a specific metric. I call that a lever, all right? It's a business characteristic, right? It's an action that you take in the business. I got a question about levers. I got a question about, well, how do I know what to keep and what to get rid of? Well, I keep alluding to the idea that if you're a corporate leader, hopefully at this point, depending upon when your fiscal year ends, it's usually around now or in a couple of months. At this point, you've already pretty much decided what you're going to do to deliver next year. What are the key priorities? What are the 3 to 5 things that are going to happen in the business that you're going to be responsible for? Those are usually defined by now. Maybe they're not, though. As an entrepreneur, you are actually making those decisions. You have a vision for your company. You know where you want to be 12 months from now. If you haven't asked yourself that question, that's the question you must ask. Where do I want to be 12 months from now? What does my business look like? What does my life look like? Where do I want to be investing and putting money, time, headcount, resources? All of those things are questions that you must answer as an entrepreneur. But if you haven't done that, that's what I want to take a pause today in my flow and bring everyone back to that. Because even if you're a corporate leader and they've handed you, so to speak, the high-level targets and where they want you to perform, at the end of the day, you still have to figure out the vision to deliver on those, right? You still have to have your ultimate vision. And so being a corporate executive or an entrepreneur, either way, you must decide where your business is going to be 12 months from now. What does that look like? How many people are going to be on your team? What are they going to be doing? What work must be done in order to get you to your final endpoints? And so that's the ultimate question. If you've been given the final endpoints or you've decided your final endpoints, ultimately those endpoints are this. How much money in revenue? What are your expenses going to look like? How much profit are you going to have? And then especially as an entrepreneur, what's that cash flow look like? Right? Usually depending upon if you're a segmented business owner, if you own a segment of the business as a corporate leader, you don't necessarily look at cash flow because that's an overall business metric that you would be responsible for, right? So take those revenue targets and then understand the levers, right? The service levels, the number of sales that you must generate, right? How many customers must you engage in order to generate that revenue? What return or loss rate must you control, right? How many cancellations can you have? What does all that look like? Those are the key things that we're working through right now. But we're not going to define how many cancellations you're going to have. You're just simply going to make a note to say, got to control cancellations. That's a lever. You've got to control it. You don't have to create the metric for it yet, but you need to know, and that's what we did last week, you must know what you have to control, where you're going to spend your effort. Now, if you're looking at creating your vision, the first question that I want you to be able to answer is, what does success look like? And that's what I allude to all of the time as I say, where will you be 12 months from now? That is how you define success. What will have happened in the business? You will have hit your revenue target, right? You will have controlled your expenses. You'll be delivering to your profit. But how? That rolls into your vision. And that is what I meant by, do you keep this lever? Do you keep that metric that we were talking about last week? You keep it? Do you really need to focus on that line of business? Or has it been canceled? Have you, taken that out of your process? Do you not offer that service anymore? If you haven't offered it, then you eliminate that. You don't look at that KPI because your business isn't going to use that anymore. Let's say you've got a new line of revenue, it's a new project you have to initiate starting in January. You have to stand that up. Well, you better write that down. What are some of the key levers and then therefore metrics, KPIs that you can look at to say, if I do this action over here, if I pull this lever and do this action in the business, I'm going to measure it by looking at these KPIs. It's really what you're working on. And I know it can get convoluted. That's why I'm coming back to it and breaking it down, because I've had a couple of folks say, well, how do I know what to keep and what to get rid of? How do I know where to focus my efforts? And that ultimately is the question that you must answer. What does success look like for you 12 months from now? If the company has given you the targets, then that's the answer. And then we boil it up and we determine what levers, what are all the things that you can do to hit those overall metrics. And then what are the sub-metrics? What are the KPIs that measure the lever performance that will inherently tell you, if I pull this lever, it's going to result in this much revenue, right? And that lever is the action. The KPI that measures the lever is called a lead measure. And then typically at the end of the month, when you can total all of the revenue, that's your lag measure. That's the end result of everything that you've done. And so what you've been working through is you sat down and you pulled all of your metrics. You've looked at every single one of them and you've said, what did I do well and what did I do poorly, right? What can I improve upon? Let's be honest. What am I going to keep and what am I going to get rid of based on the new priorities that I'm going to have for next year? And then now you're going to take it one step further. What does success look like? Let me just double check. This is a gut check. I did the exercise last week, right? This is what you're saying to yourself. I did the exercise last week. I know the KPIs that I need to keep. I know the metrics that I need to keep up with, and I know the ones that I need to eliminate. I know the areas that I need to improve. Maybe you've added a few things, right? Maybe you've got a new project that's coming along, a new part of the business. I know some new areas that I've got to invest in. Take what you did last week and then marry it with what you're doing this week. What does success look like for you 12 months from now? And make sure that everything aligns. 9 times out of 10, when I work with clients and we're going through this, they will have forgotten something that really is a key part of their business and delivering to their business. And so we've got to add that. They have decided since then that they're going to eliminate part of their business, and I'm not talking about like half their business. I'm talking about they offer 10 different services and they really have decided they want to eliminate one. After looking at the metrics and all the key pieces, it's really not generating any revenue. It's a lot more effort and expense than it is revenue generation, and the customers really aren't asking for it, even when they promote it. And so they've since decided to eliminate that part. That's okay. That's what this week is all about. When you define success, and then you go back and look at your levers, and then therefore the KPIs that will measure them, you have now a clearer assessment of what do I keep, what do I eliminate, and what do I need to add? And that is where we need to be this week. It's another refresh. It's another lens that I want you to look through. What do I keep? What do I eliminate? What do I need to add? Now that I have defined success for my part of the business, it's mine. It's my definition of success. I know that if I deliver these things, I will feel successful. The company will define it as successful. I will have achieved my overall goal for the year. Once you've created what that looks like, and you may be saying, well, again, Katrina, what does success look like for me? Go back and look at the key areas that you want to deliver on. Again, most of the time it's revenue. It could be that you want a successful launch of a new part of your business. Okay, well, what does that success look like? It's probably tied to revenue, probably tied to sales in some capacity. You may be wanting to donate in certain areas. Maybe you want to increase the donations that your company provides this next year. Perfect. Well, you probably have to create a revenue target and hit that revenue target before you can give some dollars away. So what does that look like? And what are all the ways that you're going to run and improve and drive your business in order to allow you to get there? That is what you're finalizing today. The key areas of your business that you know must happen. So today you're going to make the list. You're going to go back from last week and you're going to make this final list. What are all of the key actions? Okay, create a list. Actions on one side, all of the key actions, which I call levers, all of the key actions that have to happen in the business. And then what are the metrics that you're going to use to measure them? And then next week, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how do we define what good looks like with those metrics. Okay? But this is the last week, and like I said, I got a couple of questions. I know it's difficult. If I can't give you a very specific example for your business, sometimes it's hard to anchor that in. I totally respect that, right? But for me, when I think about it, for example, it's how many one-on-one clients will I bring on? How many people will be in the mastermind? How many people will join the membership, right, as I launch and do different things? What about the online courses? What will that look like? And how many people will come into that avenue? All of those pieces and parts, the group trainings that I do, the corporate consulting that I do, all of those components make up my business. And I have to decide when I say, here's how much revenue I want to generate in Legend next year, what is the mix of all of those things? What's the mix? Which one will contribute what percentage of the piece of pie, right? Each of those things has a piece of pie to make the whole pie of revenue. And I must decide how much each of those components will make up of the pie. And then the next thing I have to do is I have to then decide what are the actions that I must take in order to make that piece of the pie deliver to their percentage. Okay? Now, your teams are going to help you determine how that piece of pie is going to deliver. But ultimately, you need to have a few ideas. You need to have higher headcount, right? You need to have better training. Just jot down some ideas. That way you at least have a concept or a thought or a general perspective when you sit down and have your team do the exercise. That's all I'm asking for. So hopefully that example helped. Finalize that today. Next week, we're going to talk about setting the actual milestones, targets, timelines, all of the above. Go and be legendary.